Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Taste of Travel session. As Joe said, my name is Alison Wells, and I'm the Managing Director of Plain Talking Products, in-flight product supplier. We have a booth in the other hall, 4C10. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. When Joe very kindly asked me if I would moderate a panel at this year's show, I was delighted. And when she asked me what I would like to talk about, this topic was the first thing that came to mind. Simply because at Plain Talking, we get asked about this a lot. We get asked, how can we create a cohesive, well-thought-through guest experience from the moment the passenger purchases their ticket through to arrival at their final destination? How can we enhance and personalize that experience? How can we offer products and services that really add value to that journey experience? And how do we make this all cohesive and connected? So I have a great panel here today who are going to talk to us and try and answer some of these questions and more. We want to use today, this morning, to look at where we are now, but more importantly, where are we going and where could we be in the future? So trying to position the questions around where we're going. So let's get started. Panel, would you like to introduce yourselves one by one? Vimal, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. Hello. Hi, my name is Vimal. If you were here about 20 minutes ago, you would have seen me on stage. I'm managing partner and founder of Commercial Excellence Partners. We work with large organizations to improve commercial performance around sales, marketing, innovation, strategy, and so on. And my background specifically is in aviation, which is why I hang around these conferences, and which is why we go back a long way. Very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Svenja.
Hi, good morning. My name is Svenja Steffen. I'm in the industry for about a decade, not as long as you guys, but have my experience in travel retail and airline catering. I have made it my mission to help drive sustainability in the aviation sector, and I'm doing that as an IT consultant and sustainability lead at Lufthansa Industry Solutions. Lufthansa Industry Solutions is a subsidiary of Lufthansa Technik, and we basically use technology to create impact. And I'm looking forward to today's discussion and hearing your thoughts as well on these exciting topics.
Thank you. Todd?
Hi, everyone. I'm Todd Traynor-Corey. I work at Alaska Airlines based in Seattle. I'm responsible for guest products, so I oversee all of the day of travel products, in-flight food and beverage, lounges, in-flight products. I've been at Alaska for about 6 years. I was with United for about 8 years prior to that. Today I'm really excited to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing with personalization and digital transformation for our guests.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony McNeil. I'm Food and Beverage Director for Singapore Airlines, and I'm managing globally all the catering components of the airline, food, beverage, wines, contract management, supplier engagement, and my previous life was with a big airline with a red badge in the Middle East, and a catering company before that with a luxury hotel background. So I've been in food and beverage now for the last 35 years. And yes, I am only 21, so thank you.
Impressive.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So let's crack on. I've got some questions, and then if we have some time at the end, I'll open it up to the floor as well. So let's start with trends. What trends are you seeing with regard to customer preference around the journey experience? Vimal, did you want to kick off with that one?
Sure, yeah. Not sure where to begin, but I would say based on the work that I've been doing with a couple of the airlines in the Middle East and in India on transformation, very, very customer focused, and the 4 big trends which I actually spoke about earlier. One is about theater. We all want that little bit of theater when we fly, and that means hospitality, that means the movies, the games, the music, whatever rocks your boat. We love to talk about personalization, but I see personalization very differently. I talk about relevance, about recognition, and about joy and love and happiness. Those are the big trends which really don't change much over the years, I think. It's just that air travel is becoming a little bit more painful each month or each year. So I think those trends are becoming stronger now. That's what we are seeing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you in terms of joy, surprise and delight, making memories, that kind of thing is still something that everybody wants when they travel.
Yeah.
Svenja?
Well, maybe from a tech perspective, I would say that we've really seen an increased willingness, but also an expectation from travelers to engage with technology, but also to have tools to make their journey more personalized and customized to their needs and transparent as well. So if we think about all the apps that are out there now from the airlines to sort of, guide you through the whole process, starting from the booking, going through when you check in at self-check-in, then best queue to go through the security gate, etc. So we really see that there is a willingness to engage with technologies, but also an expectation that you have this seamless journey experience.
Yep, great.
What we're seeing is just a trend in demand for premium travel. And so, can you hear me okay? So, there we go, that's better.
Better.
Premium products, premium travel, so first class demand. So coming out of COVID 2021, just a huge demand upsurge for first class, premium class, lounge access. Lots of demand there, and it's not tapering off. And along with that, all the products and services that come with those premium experiences. Food and beverage, we're learning, is just a very important part of the guest experience in terms of what makes their experience memorable and building loyalty. And so we're really focused on that as well.
So same with the Singapore Airlines, we're seeing huge demand in the premium cabin, but we've recently updated our premium economy offering as well, and we've seen a huge uptick in customer satisfaction in that space. A lot of that comes down to personalisation, so we offer book the cook programming, so it's a pre-order function of Singapore Airlines. But not only that, we're seeing an increased demand in efficiency, so people wanting to move much more quickly through their airports, airspace. Everything from booking online, the app, the ease of being able to find what you want, the pre-orders, your seat availability and so on is really key. And I think time poor people, they want efficiency, they want more personalisation to realise their travel experience from point to point.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So personalisation keeps coming up, and I've watched your keynote as well, Vimal. So thinking about personalising that journey experience, how far do we think we can actually go with personalisation? I mean, how much can we create that experience? And I really enjoyed your talk when you were talking about the AI recognizing you and recognizing your travel habits and knowing that perhaps every time you get on a night flight, you don't want any dinner, you just want to go to sleep, whatever. So how far do we think we can go with creating a personalized experience? Do you want to kick us off on that one, Svenja?
Yeah, I really think the sky is the limit there, because you can go as far as you want, as long as you also find a way of managing the data and getting the data. I think that is also what I've just mentioned before, the willingness from people to share that and feeling safe and secure that the whole security aspect is taking off, because what we've heard before with AI, you can customize, you can analyze pretty much the entire behavior of us as travelers, and therefore then you can really personalize and create more efficiency. And I think 2 or 3 use cases that I may want to share with you that we've been recently working on, because we've had a panel yesterday as well, or a discussion on AI. In airline catering, for example, we've been using a food waste AI who analyzes the return trays based on image recognition, so basically computer vision, and is then feeding back a feedback about the menu. So what's left over, what has got partly eaten, and combining that with a customer feedback AI, which is basically working with natural language processing, so that you actually take feedback from customers. Some airlines, like Brussels Airlines, do that on the plane with iPads, where they take that. You could also do it in an app where you get instant feedback and you can analyze it in real time, and you can really make adjustments of your menus, for example. And if you wanted to, you could have a profile of every passenger who can give feedback and say what they want, what they don't want. So I think it really depends on how far you want to push it. But yeah, the sky's the limit there of how much you want to personalize it.
It's exciting. Todd?
Yeah, I think kind of along the same thread, we really out of necessity during COVID, we went to basically a massive pre-order food program on board. So in main cabin, the only way to get fresh food is to pre-order in advance, and then first class, it's an option to have different options on board. And so what came out of just a necessity to accurately load meals during a time when there was so much volatility turned into a real big opportunity for us to really delight guests and to learn what they're actually eating. A lot of airlines don't actually know what people are eating on board. They maybe know in aggregate what they're loading and general satisfaction, but they actually don't have data of, Mr. Johnson ate this beef meal and here's how they felt about that beef meal. So we have that data and we've been able to leverage that to really tailor our menu options and offerings to offer things on a pre-order only basis that we would never be able to offer broadly. And then to really tailor our products to certain demographics, whether it's the next gen of traveler, millennials in particular, which is a very important segment of the industry right now. And then being able to develop programs like we launched this menu a couple of cycles ago called Greatest Hits, where we can actually say, here are the top 20 items that we had over the past 2 years, and it was just a massive success. So leveraging the data and then doing something with it and then continuing to learn and build that into all of your systems is super important and critical.
And just touching on pre-order for a moment, how do you communicate that to your passengers?
Yeah, so that's been a journey as well. I think you have to, obviously, if there's an app, we have an app, a pretty robust app, we have to leverage that to communicate to them, whether it's through push notification or in-app messaging, but that's not even enough. There are a lot of guests who book through other, online travel agencies, and so working with your travel agency partners to capture the email address, send a dedicated email, you have to find different ways to get in touch with people, even on board. So reminding people that, hey, if you didn't pre-order your meal on this flight, there are ambient options for you. However, order for your next flight now. And we see huge engagement even for their return flights where they didn't order. So you have to go across multiple touch points.
Good.
I think Todd's point is really relevant. So the ability to continue the customer's journey. So even on in-flight, if you haven't ordered, that push point to get to the next, because oftentimes you're traveling, you're not thinking about that next meal experience. And I think also part of the digitalization process with Singapore Airlines is also modifying this, what was perhaps a complex process of booking and finding the book the cook options or the pre-order options to the point now where it's sort of 3 to 4 steps. So the minute you've selected your seat, the next prompt is a meal choice. So it could be your overnight, and something which we launched just pre-COVID, and it was done quietly for test and measure, was the opt-out for eating on an overnight flight. And the demand for that was really quite high. The uptake was fast and furious, which surprised all of us to some degree. But the ability to select what you want also is the opportunity to reduce your waste controls through the catering process. Of course, caterers need to forecast and plan and all those sort of good things, but if you have like your top 20, which is flying, and you know what your top 20s are, and Singapore Airlines, we have a top 30, which is what we call an evergreen, which is in constant cycling. We know what customers are wanting. We can tailor make then the route menu design to feature more specific route meal designs and requirements for the customers. So we're eliminating waste through meal design as well.
And just because I'm a product supplier, I'm interested in whether we could take this to the next level with products as well. So do you see a time when maybe as a traveller I say to you, actually, these are the amenities I would like, or I just want to sleep, so I would just like a pillow and a blanket, please. And do you think we could get to that point?
I think with cabin crews buy-in, that's really where the key to that success lies. I think you can have all the digitalization you like and all the AI reading you like, but you need also the buy-in from cabin crew, whether it's pre-placement prior to the seating or the departure. Whether it's a cabin crew moving through the cabin with an iPad or even some digital device in their eyewear to be able to register and understand what the customers are asking for. Yes, it's possible, but it's a transition and will take time. And you only need to do it on 1 or 2 sectors to measure the success. And I think you'll see that be quite popular into the future.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think that it just depends on the operations model. I think in my opinion, the infrastructure in the industry for catering last mile execution isn't very well built for lots of variability. And so when you introduce lots of variability into this flight gets this item for this individual, it does create complexity. However, if it's a standardized set of things that you can order from and there's not a limitation in terms of things are perishable, I think it becomes a little bit more easy to kind of offer that variability on any given flight. But absolutely, I think what we've learned with food, we can apply to other products across the journey for sure.
I just wanted to add, I think exactly what you were saying, it's not that technologically it's not possible, it's just more about the collaboration between the different touch points as well. And even in the style lines, for example, we don't even have standardized products, regardless if it's products or catering products. So I think it's more about as well creating awareness, that collaboration between the different stakeholders that engage in the customer experience, not just seeing the customer as my customer as an airline, but also seeing them as a customer of the caterer, which is linked anyway, but then also through the entire process of if all parties are willing to share and to collaborate from a technological perspective, it's definitely possible to do that with any, and even though there's certain limitations in the airline industry rather than other touristy other sectors, you can still do that. It's just more about if you want to have a standard or agree on a certain selection of things that people can choose.
Yeah.
So I find this discussion fascinating because on one hand we are talking of personalization and on the other hand you're talking of standardization.
Yes.
We kind of went from one end of the spectrum to the other because, and I think that speaks to the industry. Sorry if I'm a bit of an antagonist in the industry sometimes, but I want to question this idea of personalization because I think if we ask travelers about personalization, they give us in the industry a very different perspective as to what personalization means. And therefore, I think it's not, I agree there need to be standards, there need to be, standard pack uplifts and standard products. Obviously, right? And technology is definitely not the barrier. I think the missing sort of ability over here is enabling passengers, giving them the autonomy to pull what they want when they want it, and not giving it to them when you need to give it to them, or just because that's the entitlement. Right? And I think that's always the challenge for airlines, and especially because crew are involved. Crew like to work according to standard timings because that's how they're trained. This is the time for the meal service, this is what I need to do. Can I have my meal later? Sure, Mr. Rai. I'll remember you for that one. Yeah? But I just want to highlight that's the sort of the push and the pull that we have in the industry.
Yeah. Thinking about the wider journey, so not just the in-flight piece, there are a number of passenger touch points that happen before they get on the plane. So how can we use these touch points to better effect, to enhance and personalize, or get more information, or deliver more information to the passenger and add to that total guest experience? Todd, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think one area that comes to mind for me certainly is our lounges, for sure, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to engage more personally with people in our lounges across all the different airlines. Right now I think it's just you go in and that's it, you choose your own journey, but how can we leverage the more technology in our lounges to allow our guests to select a meal, to book a service, for example, to even maybe start their movie that they're going to watch in the air on the ground. Lots of airlines are like toying with bits and pieces of those things, but I think it's just a big opportunity because that is really a starting point, especially for premium travelers, right? And then I think certainly in flight, there's a really big opportunity for connecting people through the digital experience. Through some sort of connectivity. Most airlines are starting to dabble in that space, but in general, you really rely upon the crew to interact with the guests, where we really want to stay connected with the guests during the flight, understand what they're engaging with, provide them with relevant features, whether it's content, whether it's offers, loyalty, kind of things. But at the right moment and know who they are. And I think that's a key where a lot of airlines just don't know who they are and what they're engaging with in flight. So it's a dark zone, so to speak, right now, when it really shouldn't be, logically, when you think about it. Yeah.
I think also from the storytelling perspective and how we curate the journey for the customer on board the aircraft. So whether it's the seat curation, whether it's the IFE and how we put that together, the movies that you like to watch on board an airplane, how do we engage with the customer from those points? That's also an interesting perspective because oftentimes we'll get on the plane and you're like, oh, there's nothing to watch. Or I've seen this movie 3 times. So, is it a streaming service that we would prefer to see rather than an in-flight entertainment opportunity, which is expensive and cumbersome? So an iPad or even your own device connected to an in-flight monitor. I think also the storytelling coming back to the customer journey, the touch points, the curation of check-in, the new e-terminals at Singapore, Changi Airport, for example, brand new. So if you're coming through for the first time and you've not been there for 5 or 6 years, you're thinking, I've got to line up at this cumbersome queue at the customs immigration point, and now it's a very quick 30-second scan of your passport for all people of the world, not only Singapore residents, and you're in and out in less than a minute through the customs control points. But the storytelling for your journey and how you get to that point, I think, is also critical to plan and how you move through the aviation network. And as you say, standardization is one thing, but innovation is another. And there's more and more innovation coming through, but how do we communicate that to the customer and their experiences on board and through their travel journey?
Yeah, which is perfect for you, Vimal. Talk to us a bit about your thoughts on this, and you've had I saw in your talk as well about the concierge kind of pushing those messages out.
Yeah. So I think, I suppose since you brought up the concierge, I'll just focus on that one. I think there's the beauty of, I'm trying to figure out how to start saying this. So we know there's been AI for 70 years. We know there's been computing for 70 years. What's changed in the last year and a half is natural language communication. So computers are no longer interacting with us in terms of algorithms and in terms of if this then that and in terms of ones and zeros. It's now real language. And I think that presents a tremendous opportunity to now enhance experiences across the entire journey where data sharing does not necessarily have to happen, right? So you don't need the airport to work with the airline. You don't need F&B companies or security providers and so on, because you've got that ability now to let customers self-select. Again, I come back to this idea of autonomy, where if you have a concierge that's on your phone, on your airline app, and instead of trying to find which part of the app has this piece of information, only to realize, oh, they never thought about it. It's not in the app. I instead have something that sits on top of the app as an AI, and you're going to have AI native applications as well coming up. So you're going to have the AI that sits there and says, what do you want? I want to know which of the immigration queues is shorter. In 2 seconds, it's going to come back. I suggest you take that one because, at this time of the day, that one's going to be shorter. Right? So you want to have that concierge, that sort of in between yourself, the passenger, and the service provider, to answer the questions and give you the advice that you're seeking without having to go through all the clicks and the links and all of that.
I love the idea of, as you're traveling, the concierge sending you messages saying, don't forget to pack an umbrella.
Yeah.
Or have you thought about your visa or whatever?
Yeah.
Just reminding
Hamburg's
you.
going to be raining. Bring an umbrella.
Yeah.
Don't
Who
even
knew?
lie, you can do that 80% of the time.
Everyone got caught out on that this week. Svenja, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I like the idea of having a concierge. I was going to bring up basically navigating through the process before you actually board, because I feel from personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, especially if you at an airport that you haven't been to before and you're in a rush, say you're on a business trip, and you don't speak the language, you're not sure, you're running late, you're not sure how to get to the airport. You can even start there, that you help people pick the right transport method of getting to the airport, right? Is it quicker for me to hop on the train or actually order an Uber? You can have different selection for that. And then when you get there, like you were just saying, you can see, okay, which security line is the shortest, and then jumping on the lounge experience. If I have all my frequent flyer details or my access information in there, then they can suggest and say, okay, it's still another hour until boarding. How about you go in the lounge to relax? Or you can say, if you also have your past purchases saved, you can say, okay, this is your favorite brand. They run a special on the shop on gate XY, and then you can just go there. And I think it really depends what your preferences are and how much you want to share. And I agree with you, that's not about data sharing, but it's about giving access and not having 5 different apps, one telling me about the airport, one telling me about my Uber options, and one telling me about my lounge program with this airline, because not everyone always uses the same airline as well. So if you can actually share your profile, if you choose to, between Star Alliance or even other bigger, broader groups of airlines, I think that will help, and that comes also back to making it more efficient, because that's what you want to do, right? You want to bring convenience and efficiency to the customer, because that leads to increased customer satisfaction, and that's what you want to, that's our whole goal, making it more enjoyable for them. And a lot of it is also entertainment, but I think with entertainment personalized, most of people bring their own phone, have like something to clip it on. Maybe it depends a little bit on premium travel or economy, but generally I think people have that sorted. But the entire process of navigating through the airport before you even get on board, I think that is a big opportunity as well to help passengers.
Svenja has just given a $1 billion business idea for startups, right? If you're going to build an AI native apps, I said it just now, right? What you have now is you have applications which call into use APIs to call into AI. What you're going to have tomorrow is AI native apps. And I can just see this happening based on what you just said, which is, somebody's going to build an AI concierge app that's going to sit in your phone and say, what do you want to do now? I want to go to the lounge. It's going to check which of the lounges you're accessible to, you have access to, and it's going to guide you there. What do you want to do now? Well, I want to order something here. Let's go and do that. So it's going to do the stuff that you need to do without opening 10 apps for you.
Well, we can talk about that after. We can make that happen.
So, you can have that idea for free.
One other thing I just want to add, though, is I think it's at least relevant to Alaska, and just what differentiates us is our employees and our service. So how do we also provide our employees with tools to really provide remarkable service to our guests? Because we still do find that, yes, people do want self-service, they want to own their own journey, but what actually differentiates their experience is when an employee engages with them in a way that's helpful, right? So they actually know what customs line they need to go to, and they proactively say, hey, when you land, you should go through this customs line, it's quicker. That doesn't really happen at all, and so how do you provide those helpful tools to our employees to be able to actually suggest something and still provide that personalized experience? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what differentiates us, when everybody has the same technology and all the great tools, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, that human interaction is still really important. So we've already talked about some of the operational challenges in creating this kind of seamless journey experience. Does anybody have anything else to add that we haven't covered already in terms of challenges? Bimal, anything else? You talked about lack of data sharing before.
Yeah, but I want to underline what Todd said, because my largest project in the last 6 months was actually about people. It was about culture, it was about people, it was about how do you get 5,000 cabin crew and ground staff on board with the mission of changing your brand and what your brand stands for. And that's not an easy thing to do, because everybody translates action differently, And for me, I find that's the future. Somebody came up to me earlier, just after my talk, and said, "Is AI the future? What about human-to-human interaction?" I'm like, absolutely. I just didn't have time. I just had 45 minutes. But I really do think the humanity in us is going to become even more valuable in the age of AI. So yeah, that's super important.
Maybe to add on that, and I think we discussed that yesterday, my colleague Max was on stage yesterday as well, and I think what's important to understand is that AI is not going to replace any services necessarily of people, and I think like you said, especially interacting and just thinking about, can be a little bit of a nervous flyer sometimes as well, and thinking I'm sitting on the flight, like there is turbulences, and then an app is telling me, oh, you calm down, just breathe, it's going to be fine. I'm not sure how much that's going to be helpful for me, or if there's actually a crew member coming towards me and assuring me that it's okay. And yes, maybe they use technology and tell me, you know what, it will be over in 2 minutes, because I can see that here. It's also about connectivity. That will be a lot more reassuring for me that everything is fine. And I think also with customer service, we heard that yesterday from Iberia as well, that they really utilize, because you do have some cues that you can get from a chatbot when you have customer issues, right? Like there's some really simple things that you can quickly search in a chat where you can get help. But sometimes you really have an individual problem, you want to talk to a human. And you also want to feel like you said, that's the difference, that's the service level from an airline. But they can use AI to sort of prep helping you. So they can have a history of what's happening, or your data, or other services that might be helpful. So they can be a better version of themselves to help you. And I think that's what we need to understand. AI is not it's not a threat. It's a great opportunity for so many aspects.
Yeah. Todd, when we spoke, you talked about one of the challenges with pre-order is if you then don't deliver
Yeah.
against the pre-order. Can you
Yeah.
just share a bit of that?
Yeah,
with
I
us?
think our industry is unique because we're putting flight attendants and guests on an airplane for hours, and if we don't deliver properly on the ground, it's then their job to recover. And if you don't offer them the tools, then they're not going to get behind that solution, right? And so that's why I think a lot of crew are resistant to change, because they know that management wants to do this and this is a great idea and it sounds amazing, but when it doesn't work, they're the ones who have to deal with it. So I think part of it is just starting somewhere. What I've learned in my career, if I look back 15 years, there was a lot of, I worried a lot about not being able to scale something, and what I've learned over the last few years is just if you're able to launch small and adapt and grow, you actually will learn over time, and you'll build sort of the processes and the tools to kind of catch up with where you need to be. And so that's really that sort of agile sense, and we think about that in technology and in product development from a digital perspective. We don't quite think about that really, I would say, on the product development side for airlines. It's probably not ingrained in how we think. So bringing that kind of mindset to that, not a one-size-fits-all solution. You're not solving for all these really strange fringe cases. You're just saying, hey, how can I deliver this one product to this one flight, understand how that went, learn from it, and then grow from that. I think that's been really important, but it's painful, and I think that's the resistance that a lot of airlines are up against, and why not everybody's doing it. To the extent that we're seeing some is because it's a challenge, and if you don't deliver, your flight attendants are not going to support you in expanding. Yeah.
I think also to Todd's point is that the small methodology, the test and measure, it may not just be on one sector, but Singapore Airlines, we will test and measure on certain sectors, and we will do 3 to 5 hours, we'll do 5 to 10, and then we'll do an ultra long. And the benefit of doing that is that we can get the reaction in flight, and we have teams that fly on board as customers, and they're reading the customers, they're reading the cabin crew, they're gaining experience listening to the feedback from the galley operators all the way through to the cabin attendants that are taking care of the toilets, for example. But those little test and measure points allow us to refine further, so when we do go big, we've nailed pretty much every touch point that we need to work through. So it's not easy, and as you say, the buy-in is really challenging, but at each of those discussion points for the test and measure, we have 1 or 2 cabin crew members, we have a crew union member with us, we have also procurement with us, so they understand what we're trying to achieve, because they're not subject matter experts in that space. And once you have a buy-in, then we'll bring the caterers on board, we'll do a training workshop in Singapore if it needs to be Singaporean cuisine or a laksa or whatever it may be, so that everybody has buy-in and have empowerment to deliver the product ultimately for the end user, and that's the customer. Once we understand that, then we're ready to go. So we don't do things lightly at Singapore Airlines. I'm sure most of my colleagues here are the same. But that's the measure of success. And ultimately, the customer has to provide you the feedback to deliver that success as well.
Just very quickly, and probably just for Todd and Anthony, touching on sustainability for a moment. So one of the happy byproducts of pre-order, etc., is that you don't overload, you don't over-provision the aircraft. But what are the challenges that airlines face in terms of the messaging around that to the passenger, where you really don't, where it's not necessarily a cost-cutting exercise, but it could be perceived as that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think with food waste and pre-ordering, there's a clear benefit, because you're going to we had issues where we would run out of food by the exit row, and people are very angry at us, like, why can't you get this right in a world of AI, right? We've eliminated that issue, so I think the only barrier is you have to order, and some people don't like that and they don't understand that, but having sort of ambient products helps if those are available. I think in other areas of sustainability, whether it's eliminating plastics, removing certain types of products that people are used to or feel more convenient, there's always this sense of not only is it cost cutting, but are you just doing this, because it seems popular, are you greenwashing, you're making my life less convenient. And so I think messaging the why behind the what on the materials themselves and all the collaterals is really important. Tying it back to perhaps your ESG strategy is really important. And then, letting people make their own decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that. When we're developing a lot of our products, we try to put the messaging into the product, so it's obvious. But you can also do that in sort of fun ways as well.
Yeah, I think also part of the journey is putting it within the product or the story behind the product, why we've chosen this material or fabric. But also social media touch point is really important. So, recently on Singapore Airlines, we trialed a eco-friendly compostable butter. The reaction was somewhat weird for the response. The rest of the world was happy to see an eco-friendly product. But our Southeast Asian customers were clearly unhappy with the result. And it was only amounted to probably 1.92% of the total flying customer profile that the butter ran for 3 months. It was a trial. But the relation value and the storytelling perhaps wasn't clear enough from our side to help the customer understand why we were going down this journey path. And of course, if you miss the opportunity, the reaction can be quite severe. And we saw that also with our eco-friendly boxes. We did a trial on some eco-friendly or sustainable paper opportunities 18 months or so back. The customers are not ready for the experience. And whilst the airlines are trying really very hard along the sustainability angle, the customers in some cases are just not willing to accept the fact that it's a paperboard and they want a porcelain casserole or they want a melamine casserole which has, so again, it's test and measure. And the market will tell you when it's ready because the customers will tell you when they're ready. So, we just need to be flexible in that approach.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you. So look, we've only got a few minutes left. So just some final thoughts on what the future looks like and where are we going with this end-to-end journey experience. Anthony, let's start with you and we'll come back this way.
Good question. I think ultimately it's going to be human touch, which is going to win the day. AI is just a predictive indicator of the information that we put into it, and it can only be as good as the results that we want through human interaction. So our customer experience still has to be human-centric, driven by people, for people, by people. And I think that's really the ultimate goal. The outcome is to achieve great customer satisfaction through delivering beautiful product on board the aircraft with great people.
Brilliant.
I believe that AI is definitely going to transform how we do business, how our guests do business, and I think that companies that are at the forefront of that now are going to be at the table to meet those guests where they're at. But I also think, I agree that it's really important that we also provide that high-touch experience and provide our employees with the same tools that guests have so that they can really, sort of be a step ahead of them even. If needed to support them and provide remarkable service. So I think it's just the combination of both. And just, I think being ready for it is really important and not waiting for it to happen and then you have to catch up. I think that would be a detriment for many companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to repeat what's been said already, I think I just want to add that I really think the two drivers, technology and sustainability. And sustainability, one side is the regulations. Like you said, airlines are doing a lot, but because they have to as well. Like there's, especially in Europe, there's a lot of regulations that airlines are confronted with that they have to do. But at the same time, we also, and you mentioned Gen Z before, there's also a push from certain groups of customers who do want to fly, who do want to see the world, who do want to connect with people, but they want to make that in a way where we have the least impact on the environment as possible. And we are confronted with greenwashing a lot of times as well, and I do believe that traveling by plane is never going to be the greenest option of moving, but we can do a lot of things to make it more sustainable, and I think that is something that customers will request more and more, and not just through carbon offsetting, but also through more less resource-intensive materials, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that we will see a transformation from that perspective as well. And with every transformation, it will take time. It requires communication, and it requires honest communication. So you also need to find a balance between storytelling and taking people with you, but also having facts and measures, because that is a really fine line as well, for at least for sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. Female.
I've spent 45 minutes and I've heard 3 wonderful people, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. What I would like to see in the future, I think, is what I would like to see. Yes, that would be great. I hope every airline and every service provider that supplies into airlines uses the savings and the efficiencies and the opportunities generated through AI to invest back in people, because I think that's what's missing. A lot of staff who have been hired. Well, I mean, we could go on forever, but you get my point. You know, I think we need to reinvest in the people, and probably overcompensate for all the investment we've done in things, in aircraft, in products. And I'm not saying don't do products. I'm just saying tilt the balance the other way and invest in the people, because ultimately it's the people who are going to make the difference between your brand and your brand, right? And I think that's what I would really like to see in the future.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Our 45 minutes is up. I'd love to thank the panel. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your preparation for today. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.